What's up, guys? Welcome back to Timeless Talks. It has been a minute, but we're back with your hosts here, Chris Ramsey and my guy,
Nico, the Puerto Rican Schultz, and today is our biggest podcast up to date. We got the CEO of Hudl, John Wirtz, co-founder of Hudl. John, how you feeling about being on the show today, man?
I'm feeling great. I'm super pumped, man.
Man, we got him decked out with some Timeless Talks merch. He's happy
Best
to be
I've
here.
looked in months.
Hey, look, best we
look
felt,
great,
best
man.
we look too.
Best
Us
we
three in
felt,
the
best we
room.
looked.
Look, makes the world shake, So,
Man, business things are about to go down.
Yes,
Let's get
sir.
straight to it, man.
we wanted to know a little bit about just like, who are you? Who is John? You know,
Yes,
tell
who is
us
John
about
Wirtz?
the lifestyle a little bit.
I'm a Midwest guy. I grew up in Kansas City.
KC.
So yeah, my mom and dad are from KC. They're still down there, so they'll be coming up for the holidays here soon to
Thanksgiving.
hang out. Yep. So yeah, from KC. I've got a little bro who's down in Kansas City, but I came up for school in like 2001. Came up to Nebraska for my undergrad. I'd never set foot in Nebraska,
Hey,
but came here to check out the Rake School. So it's like a computer science business
nice.
program here, and kind of fell in love with campus and the town, and just felt right. It was kind of the right distance from home
Yeah.
for me. So that's the college step of the journey. But I guess to rewind it back, like growing up, kind of entrepreneurial from early on. So I had like the lawn mowing business going on as a
nice.
kid,
Okay.
making
Like
a lot of
house
cash.
to house?
Yeah, just house to house. Like probably 4 of the houses down our like street I did, and then I would, once I could drive, throw the mower in the truck,
And
throw the gas, the
you're
trimmer in the
going.
truck, and had like 6 or 7 more lawns. So it was like
Nice.
pretty good money, pretty good
Yeah.
cash in the summer. So yeah, entrepreneurial stuff had been going on, and then yeah, athletics. We were talking on the way in, but yeah, gymnastics, diving were a big part of my life. In school, debate was big, band. So I kind of just did like a lot of different stuff growing up.
Yeah.
I guess, which I think paid off later on because I had just connections with a lot of groups of people, could kind of like roughly speak the language of if someone's into theater or music, and was
Mhm.
kind of connected there. If you're in athletics, I was kind of connected there. Debate, academics, I was kind of connected. So I was like that connector guy kind of in
Nice.
Yeah.
high school that kind of set between
That
the cliques. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And I kind of do some of that at Hudl too.
Okay.
So the question I got to you, so you said that you had a hustling mentality early on. Did you get
Yeah.
that from your parents, or did you kind of instill that within yourself?
Oh yeah, I got it from my parents. So my dad and his dad were in the restaurant business,
Okay.
and that's like hustle all
yeah,
the time.
It's
like
difficult working with that, man.
working holidays, lots of hours, lots of hustle to keep restaurants going.
Yeah.
So for a while, they had a pretty major steakhouse in Kansas City, so it was like
Okay.
a spot that people would hit. And then my mom was a nurse, so like professionally, not a ton of, I guess, hustle in the normal sense of it, but she
Right.
was always doing other stuff with us. Like I remember, like she would bring. She would go get animal parts. This is gonna sound a little weird, but like from the she'd go to the butcher shop, get weird animal parts that they like didn't use, like a heart or an eye, and bring them into school. And since she was a nurse, she would like explain them to
That's
all the
actually
classmates.
cool. That's actually
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
But
okay.
everybody loved it.
That's
I remember
nice.
at one point, like an eyeball was like thrown out into the crowd.
Wow.
Just imagine getting smacked with the eyeball.
Yeah, super random. But yeah, so she was always coming up with just cool stuff like that, like entrepreneurial essentially.
Yeah.
But just in a different way.
Yeah, that's
So yeah,
amazing.
I always had that around.
Okay, that's amazing. So, what advice, like for people in college, a lot of people like just think, okay, college is the way, college 100%. So, like, what advice would you give people who want to kind of merge into that entrepreneurship, who didn't have, that type of lifestyle growing up?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing. So college is definitely not the key unlock. I think it's like it's being out hustling and selling. We talked about this when I had a chance to talk to the class. It's like just getting out and getting reps trying to sell anything. Like it could be knives door to door. It could be some special kind of skill that you've got and you just try to figure out how to put a price on it and go market it. It could be candy bars when your teams are selling those, back in the day for a fundraiser or whatever. But like I think that's a big part of it, is just getting reps, going out and like asking for money for something in return, getting some rejection, figuring out how to push through it. That's a big part of the equation. Building up the network too, I think, is a big part. So that's probably the biggest jumpstart you get in college, is you get this just a group of people around you that can help kind of jumpstart your network.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have college for that. Just like whatever route you can find to start building that network up, that's a big part of the entrepreneurial journey too, because you're going to need investors, you're going to need legal help, you're going to need all these different things. So how can you build up through family connections, through whatever you've got, that network of people that kind of care about you and they know that you're interested and you want to do something on your own, and they're kind of keeping an eye out for what you're going to do next.
Right.
I like that.
That's a huge, ingredient.
Okay.
So, impactful moments coming up in your life before you ended up meeting David and Brian. How was life before that? Did you always have this idea where you wanted to make something big, or were you just going day to day? Like you said, building connections. You said you were looking into the Rake Scholarship. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, I was in the Rake School.
You were in the Rake School,
yeah.
so building connections there. So did you always have this mindset to where like you wanted to make something big, but just didn't have the people around you, or like talk about that, just your upbringing and impactful moments?
Yeah, I think I didn't identify as like an entrepreneur or like startups. First of all, it was kind of early when we were starting. When I was in college, 2001, that was like before startups had become like a thing so much. Like Google was just getting going, but even that was like, it was like a thing maybe just in the Bay Area, maybe even there it was kind of not a thing.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more identifying with, I liked creating things like from scratch. Even in school, whether it was like getting a club off the ground or something, creating something from scratch. So I'd identified that, and then when I got to school, I met Brian as my roommate. David was across the hall.
That's really cool.
Matt Mueller, one of our very first employees, was across the hall. A lot of our early team actually was like, I was meeting there at Rake School, and that's when it kind of clicked for me. Like, oh man, I think I've got the right people around me.
Yeah.
To ride some coattails. Honestly, I mean, I got like some super talented people.
Right.
I want to figure out how to do something together. But up until then, my path had been law school. I was in political science. I had a political science minor, and I thought I was going to go into like politics, and that was going to be my career. I'd done like student government, back in school. I really liked that. But yeah, it was like, so it was day to day, and then like sophomore, kind of junior year, it was like the entrepreneurial bug was starting to like get me. Yeah. And it was like, man, if I could be my own boss, start my own thing, that could be pretty sweet. But I honestly didn't think it was going to happen before kind of graduating. I figured we would all kind of go our separate ways for a bit, and then hopefully be able to merge back together. But we like really lucked out that MBA year, like our fifth year, kind of found the idea that we all latched onto.
Nice. So like, was there a moment, like you said, you kind of realized you wanted to be your own boss? Was there a moment going through college where you were like, okay, the 9 to 5 regular like blue collar worker, like that's not for me? Was there a moment in your life where you're like, okay, I have to be something different, I have to go and take that step and then create what is now Hudl or something on those lines?
Yeah, I think my parents did push me on that. So my parents were both really blue collar. So like I said, my mom was a nurse for 40 years, like working weekends and nights.
Long time.
Yeah. My dad worked at an Army ammunition plant, the biggest like small arms ammunition plant in the country is in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So it's where they made like all the small rounds for U.S. Army, U.S. military. So he was there like literally on the assembly line is where he started like packing ammo containers with bullets. It's about as blue collar as you get.
Literally.
And then worked his way up to working in the power plant. So he was working on where they generated all the steam that kind of powered the plant. But he was like in the thick and blue collar, the kind of guy that was like not late a day of work in his life.
So he had that dedication.
So they had the grind and dedication, but they were pretty clear with me along the way of just like, man, if you can go to college and find those opportunities and not be doing the 40-hour week grind, make it happen. So that urge was always there from them of like, go. Wasn't like go start your own business, but go find some way to not be in the blue collar kind of grind, unless you at least give yourself the option. You can do it if you want to, but so that was part of that push. But honestly, I thought I was going to go to law school and be a lawyer for a while, so I wasn't really looking for the it hadn't clicked until college of like, oh wow, I could actually run my own business. I didn't even know what that.
Right.
I didn't even know what that meant really. We still didn't, even when we were starting Hudl. We didn't really have any clue what we were doing.
Yeah.
We just thought the concept sounded really cool.
It does. Hey, that's kind of the process we're going with too. Honestly.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. You guys are doing it. Yeah. You don't really. It feels weird and kind of crazy until you start doing it, and you're like, oh, there's kind of no magic here. You just show up and you make the swag and you just start like doing it and you're like, oh, it's actually not I think you have this impression of there's some kind of like secret sauce, or there's people out here that know they've got it all locked down, and I've got to somehow become that person later, and but nobody does. So you just got to do it.
That's that I've heard a lot recently, especially like the whole, you'll get to that person eventually thing. It's like a lot of people are saying now it's like you need to enjoy that journey. You need to enjoy your present. Yeah. So
yeah, I love that.
Especially like for me, for example, I would always be like, okay, I have to hit this goal, this goal, this goal. But then when I get to the goal, I'm like, okay, that process that took me there, that was the most important thing. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly. I loved how you said that. That's what that reminded me.
I like how you're saying it. That was better. That was better said. Yeah, like you got to be loving the journey, and the journey part is where you're learning all the stuff that actually matters and the most. So goals are good. Yeah, it helps give you kind of a rough route.
Yeah,
to be shooting for. But yeah, you're right. You got to be, and like so often that journey kind of forks off in a way you didn't quite expect.
Right.
You got to kind of be open to that, and that's something we've learned at Hudl too. Like, it's amazing how kind of zeroed in you can get on. This is what I'm trying to do. This is the next step, and not see like this awesome opportunity is starting to emerge over here, and you're just not seeing it.
Yeah. So I mean, speaking of Hudl, man, can you tell us a little bit about that for anyone who might be watching who's not, any people younger or even like older who may not have heard of it? Can you tell us like what is Hudl?
What is Hudl?
Especially for you.
Yeah, definitely. So we're at our core, it's about helping sports teams capture and get value out of video and data in sports. So our mission is make every moment count. So every moment of practice, every moment of training, every moment of every game, how do we make it count? And we think the best way to do that is by helping teams tap into video and all of the kind of data and information around video. Our purpose that drives us at Hudl is to give every athlete the shot they deserve. So how do we level that playing field, help every athlete get a shot to get noticed, to play at their best, regardless of where they happen to be born or what their socioeconomic status is. We believe still today too much of whether you get to succeed as an athlete is whether you have the money to afford the coaching, the training, the money to go to the showcases. And too many amazing athletes are just not being seen.
Yeah,
so
pay to win aspect.
Totally, pay to win, especially here in the U.S. It's just like such a huge way of the way sports work. So that's what drives us at Hudl. Like to kind of boil down like what we actually do. Teams, are practicing, playing games all over the world all the time. We help them capture video of those practices and games. Everything from if they do it on their phones, we help them get that up to the cloud. We have smart camera systems now that teams can use where they put this box on the wall or on their press box and it automatically knows their schedule. It turns on automatically. It follows the action.
Nice.
Yeah, so kind of cut the need for a camera person out because we know a lot of times having to have a camera person means you're losing an assistant coach because that's who's back there having to do, or a parent's having to volunteer. So help them capture the video, help them get it up to the cloud so they can share it out to the team, and then help them automatically, more and more so, break down that video. So every sprint or long jump or high jump, if we're talking about track, or every rebound, shot, assist, goal, in team sports is automatically cut out and broken down.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then help them make highlights off that, help them make teaching tapes off that. So it's like all the things you can imagine doing with video. That's what Hudl's about.
Nice.
We work with, so just in terms of scale, all of the NBA, all of the English Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga. So at the top end of sport, we work with the best of the best. But then what we're also really proud of is we work with every high school pretty much that has an athletic program is now using Hudl for at least one of their sports, and then more and more club sports too, youth sports.
The club too, nice. I didn't know you guys had the club in the youth. Also.
We're just starting to grow, pick up steam in the club and youth sports too.
Nice.
So we really want to connect those dots from club, youth sports, all the way up to pro
level.
Yeah. One thing that was super impressive to me that you talked about in the presentation about, you kind of said it here, you get really locked in on a certain goal, you think something has to be done a certain way, especially as an entrepreneur starting things up. Yeah. You said that originally Hudl's plan was just to be for professional teams, right?
Yeah.
You wanted to just be NFL, NBA, and just that. And all these high school teams and all these high schoolers like, hey, like, can we use Hudl? Like, no, it's supposed to be professional, And as soon as you let that to everybody, the high school, the club teams, that's when you guys blew up. Can you talk about that and just being able to go a different route and then that route just randomly ends up working?
Yeah, that was our first big pivot. So we started, pro Division I football. And for the first 2 years of the company, so that was 2006 when we started, to 2008, we were building these really cool products. The Huskers were using it for football here. Mm-hmm. We had about 3 or 4 other customers that were all great customers, but it wasn't, we had burnt through the first money we had raised. We weren't getting near enough customers to make the business work.
Right.
So even though externally everyone was seeing it, high-fiving us and talking about how we're killing it, because the story was cool, the business wasn't working.
Right.
Which I think that's the case for a lot of startups. Like, the outward presence is like, this is awesome, because you gotta keep like everyone fired up about what you're doing, but internally and with the team, like, we're getting the crap kicked out of us. It's not working.
Right.
So we definitely felt that. So we had to raise another round of money, and luckily we have great investors who were like, we need you to get back on board with us again. All that stuff we told you about NFL Division I, we think we actually need to bring it to high school, and here's why. Because we'd been getting phone calls, like you said, from high school coaches and small college coaches that were like, hey, we need to do all these things with video you're talking about. And so we raised that money in 2008. We took the system from something that was kind of heavyweight and brought it to something that ran in your internet browser. Took the price point from $50,000 a year down to $800 a year as a starting point. Wow. And and then it just took off. Our goal was to get, I think, 75 high schools on board. In the first year we were really selling to high schools. We thought that number sounded crazy. It's like, if we could have 75 high schools, we're cooking.
We're rich.
Yeah. And then we ended up selling to 250 high schools, and we're like, okay, this is word of mouth was picking up, and it started taking off.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time we ever beat sales projections, and it felt really good, and something really connected. And then it wasn't, so that was 2008 when that started kind of ramping up. It wasn't until 2014, 2015 that we kind of came back around to the elite professional market, and we were ready to take that on again and push back in that direction.
That's amazing, man. One story that I thought was super cool for a motivational story. Didn't you actually go back to your high school and pitch this idea of what Hudl was for free? You were going to do something for free, and they said no and turned you down. Can you talk about that story?
Yeah. In 2008, we were looking for 12 pilot high schools to use it for free, and we offered it for free for life. Which I'm sure a lot of them were like, I'm sure they were like, for free for life, like, how long is this company going to be around? Like, what does life really mean? But we offered for free for life. And so I was the one driving around literally door to door to the schools, going and pitching them. So we got a handful of Omaha and like Lincoln schools on. We got a few Kansas schools on. We got UNK. They were our small college because we wanted that small college example to learn from that.
Right.
And then I went down to Blue Springs South, my alma mater in Kansas City, and I was like, oh, this is a softball, like slam dunk. And then I walked in and pitched them, and they're kind of head nodding, like, giving me all the positive vibes, but then, you like go home and the next day you get the like, not interested.
Wow.
They're like, we already have software that kind of does this. We like it. It works, it's working well. They literally had, I think, like 4 laptops with software installed on them. That was all they could use. We were offering them Hudl in the web for the whole team. We made the whole pitch, but
in comparison, it sounds like...
Yeah, but then I got to come back around and sell it to them the next year.
Right, full price. Now they're a payer, so...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that did feel good. But yeah, that was definitely a punch in the gut. And I remember like a long 3.5 hour drive, back to Lincoln, just like, man, did we just raise all that money from our investors again? Are we about to just fail again? Like, it's like, how many times can you kind of go back and put yourself on the line?
Yeah, I was curious about that. Like, you going around, you doing your pitches, especially in this point when the business financially, you guys are wanting to do a lot better. How did you manage doing those pitches? Like, what kind of process did you go through to be able to do those pitches and do them well to sell your business?
Yeah, it was, I definitely improved on them over time. So it wasn't like I was the pitch master. But I think the thing we were good at early on was we've always been good listeners, and that really paid off in the sales process, because like your best salespeople are just really good listeners too, and the best salespeople only talk maybe 20% of the time, and they get the other side of the table talking 80% of the time because you're just trying to learn.
Right.
So that was the big thing I did in pitches. That would be my advice to anyone else too, is like, get them talking about what they're struggling with, ask them about what they're using for video now, what are the biggest things they're trying to achieve with the team they're struggling around. And so that gave me my bearings early on in the pitch. So when I talked to a team, some teams early on would skew towards recruiting, because some high school coaches feel like a really major obligation to help their athletes get recruited. And so we would end up talking about how you could use Hudl for recruiting and highlights, and that was big for them. Some coaches don't feel like that's their job. I think that's wrong, but some of them are like, hey, athletes, they'll figure it out, they'll mail DVDs, whatever. And so for those coaches, though, they might care a lot more about opponent scouting. Like we were talking to football coaches, so if I'm talking to them and they're like, scouting's a grind, we like to break down 8 or 9 tapes on an opponent, then I would zero in on that and talk about how we can make that a lot better. Some staffs, it was like the head coach was doing all the work and grinding it out. Some of them had a bunch of assistants, so that would skew the pitch. So it was all about like being really good at listening and learning, asking really good questions that kind of get you to like the root. We talk a lot at Hudl about 5 why. I like that technique a lot.
Why?
You just ask why.
5 times.
5 times, yeah, pretty much. Like you have to be, kind of tactful with it, just like say why. Like a 2-year-old, like why. But you're asking a coach what he's struggling with, and he's like, we're having a hard time. Like our practices just haven't been as productive as I want. Well, tell me why, coach. Like what's holding you back? Like, well, we're coming in, and I don't feel like I'm losing the guy's interest. So we're kind of by the end of practice, I'm trying to just herd cats. Okay, well, why do you think you're losing interest? And then by the time you get to 5, you're kind of starting to get actually what's going on. It's
actually,
maybe you find out they're actually struggling to keep their guys on the team, and so the team just keeps staying young because they keep bringing freshmen and sophomores on and losing them. Like, okay, so it's a retention problem. It's not really a practice problem. It might actually be like you're not getting upperclassmen to stay engaged in your sport. So then your pitch can be around that. Here's how Hudl and video can help you keep your guys engaged, just as an example.
Nice, that makes a lot of sense. So outside of pitching to new clients, speaking back to the investors you said are amazing, for anyone going and looking for investors, or like even like trying to figure out how to go about that route to find investors for maybe a startup or anything they're looking to do, how would you say that process works?
That one, it varies a ton. So for us, again, like the thing that I think is universal is the better you build out your network, the better off you'll be. So that's the one thing everyone can do is you want to have that good relationship with an investor before you need money.
Yeah.
If you're going to them asking for money and that's your first interaction with that person, it's going to be way more of an uphill battle than if you had went to them early on with an early idea and advice, and then it's some number of weeks or optimally like some months later after you've had 2 or 3 interactions and then you're like, hey, we're doing our first raise. I've loved the advice I've gotten from you. I'd love for you to be on board. Can I talk to you about it? So like the pitch feels way more natural.
Yeah.
But it's always trickier, especially if it's like a cold email going out and the first thing you're doing is like asking for money. It's just like tough. So you want to try to avoid being in that position. For us, we went out and won a bunch of business plan competitions early on. So
nice.
I think also the scrappier and hungrier you can look, the better by far. For me, that's going to be way at the top of my list. I'm not an investor yet, but at some point I would love to be, in investing. And one of the first things I would look at is just like, how scrappy is this team at just making things happen? Are they coming up with an idea and then saying, now I need investment to do anything, which is total BS? Or are they like scrappy and making it happen and they're just like ready, they want to bring on money to accelerate? That's way more exciting.
That's true.
But I've seen a lot of people that put a business plan down and they're like, I'm ready to raise $1 million. It's like, well, what have you done? It's like, I wrote a business plan.
What actions? You gotta
push a little harder than that. Like, it doesn't give me a lot of faith that if you were to deploy the money, they're going to go out and use it really efficiently and like make it really last. So that'd be 2 things I think everyone could do is get scrappy and show just how much you can do before you even need to raise. Like, in the business plan competitions we won like $70,000 in cash from just going out and winning business plan competitions. That allowed us to land Nebraska as a customer. We had some interns on board. We got a super jank office space, but it was with a bunch of other startups. That was great.
Nice.
So all that was happening before we went and pitched an investor on investing.
Wow.
So we were already like set apart from
The rest,
a lot of other companies. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Like what you all going on, like being able to come in and be like, here's what we've created, here's how we do, here's the podcast we're producing, here's this website we've got up and running. Like all of that is just establishing like, I know how to run the business, I know how to be scrappy, I'm already learning. People want to bet on winners, and so they want to see you winning.
That's true.
I appreciate that. And going back to like 2001 you came to college, right? 2001 was a time where like cameras on phones was just insane. Like nobody could even think about that. And for you to think about this idea where you're gonna help bring high school teams and professional teams together just through camera and video quality, like having that, it's almost like you can see into the future a little bit. Like that's how that looks to me. So for you guys, did you guys think that social media was gonna blow up to the point that it's at today, or really were you guys rolling with the punches like what you said earlier?
A lot of rolling with the punches. The concept, the thing social media like just didn't even like
Wasn't even a thing.
really exist. I think MySpace maybe was like existed. Friendster, MySpace, these things that were like a Friendster, yeah.
Friendster. Have
It
you
was
ever
like
heard of
the-
that?
No.
See?
That was like the precursor to Facebook. Yeah. It was,
Nice.
so these were like, when we were starting Hudl, yeah, smartphones hadn't come out. Anything that was social media was all, web only. So yeah, we weren't, I wish I could say we were like, had the premonition of all this stuff coming in, but
Right.
the thing we did see, the stuff we could see that really helped us on Hudl is we really believed that video was going to move to the cloud, and cloud wasn't even really a term, just like to the web.
Yeah.
At the time, people weren't really running in the cloud in the same way they are now, where you're running on Amazon and like hosting your servers there. Like our servers literally were above Sandy's on O Street. Like that's where the servers that ran Hudl were,
No
server
way.
rack above Sandy's. Yeah. But that's what we believed was like the internet, video was going to move to the internet. YouTube was like just getting started.
Right.
That was the wave we saw, and we were right in calling that wave, and like that wave was a big part of what powered Hudl. But then mobile coming out and like video cameras that were super powerful mobile devices, that was like a just fortuitous next step in technology.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we talked about that's been a strength of Hudl's is we try to be, there's some areas where we're bleeding edge and we're kind of charting the course, but in a lot of cases we're just really fast adopters of technology and bring it into sport. So we may not make the amazing video technology from scratch, but when we see it emerge, we'll figure out how to grab it and bring it into sport and grab it and get it to hundreds of thousands of teams.
Right.
And that can be a really powerful way to start a business. Like you don't have to be the ones coming up with all the groundbreaking ideas, but you can be really fast at grabbing them and applying them to your space.
That reminded me of another saying. I have a lot of things that remind me of. It's like called "Don't reinvent the wheel."
Yeah.
Like also like if it's broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that reminded me
Totally.
of. Also like going back to like how you guys like the cloud wasn't a thing. It was more like the web. Now like what does the process look like? You guys are very highly adaptive. But like for the social media marketing, or like how you guys do make those changes when it comes to like anything that might be coming out new, whether that's TikTok or like Instagram, because I know these are newer compared to when you guys first started. So like how does that look when it comes to your team and your processes?
Yeah, we try to understand it as fast as we can. Like staying in close touch with athletes is really important for us to understand the impact of something like Snap or TikTok emerging. We have a media team at Hudl that also is really fantastic at understanding like the nuances of the different social platforms and what we need to do on them. Kelly Mosier, who actually used to work for Husker Vision and ran media, big chunk of the media team here for the Huskers.
Okay.
Came over and now runs the media team at Hudl and does an awesome job with it. And so he was running like social here for athletics, Husker Vision, and the video production team here. So having people in-house like that really have a good understanding, and then we're watching a lot of the trends too.
Yeah.
So as we're posting content into these channels, like really trying to understand what's working, what's not, what's resonating, like using the numbers to guide us.
Yeah.
But for our core business, like that we make most of our revenue off of today, it's really more about teams buying the Hudl platform to use for their team. So the positive there is like that's pretty stable, even if TikTok's emerging and Twitter's coming down and Twitter's going back up and all these things are moving. Like we're not shook by that too much as a company because mainly people are buying Hudl
As itself.
and using Hudl. But we do care about helping athletes get their highlights out onto those platforms, so that's where it's most relevant. It's
Got
like,
you.
how do we need to plug into those platforms so athletes can use them to get noticed?
So what qualifications do you need to have in order to get hired at Hudl? Like what do you look for in a person, in an intern, in order to go and work for you?
I mean, it varies by role. So we hire like interns, and all of our roles kind of run across the whole company. So we're hiring across marketing and sales. So those are really different. On sales, we're really looking for experience actually selling. So most of our sales team, we hire either experience if we're hiring them in from outside, or if they're inexperienced, it usually means they started at Hudl and they showed they've got sales chops, either on our support team, on our taking phone calls, and like they've proven they've got the skills to sell. So they were really looking for experience. On the product team, we place a really high value on like the projects people have done on their own. things, outside of school, being scrappy. So yeah, we're looking for well-rounded people that don't just have a resume of like, here's how I did, in classes, school projects, but what are you passionate about? What did you do outside of the normal kind of run of class? Or when you're in class and you got to take on a project, how did you take that to another level? Or if it's an engineer, we're looking for the things they're doing over on the side that they're coding and building on their own that are really cool and interesting. So it's part of what we're looking for is that passion that goes outside of just your normal classwork or professional life if you're in the workforce. And then our values are really important to us. So we've got 5 core values as a company, and that's something that we look for in people. So those are play to win. That one's really about like if you're going to do something, you should want to be the best at it. So we're looking for people that like to swing big in their hobbies and in their professional life and in school. Take risks, think long term. We're respectfully blunt, so people who can give direct feedback do it respectfully, but be able to give feedback and can receive it.
Right.
So athletes is always a plus for us because we know if you're an athlete, especially an athlete at a high level, you have to be able to process direct feedback.
Yeah.
And if you're an athlete and you're a captain or a leader within athletics, you know better than me, like you got to be able to give direct feedback. So we're looking for people that have those kinds of backgrounds. We listen is one of our core values. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Like people who are humble or curious, really good listeners, listen to really hear, not to like formulate their next question.
Next thought. Right?
Yeah. Thrive on the front lines. We like people that like to be in getting their hands dirty in the thick of it. They like to be in and helping people, not people who want to be a middle manager or disconnected from the actual customer. And it sounds funny, but you when you talk to people, you can see it in their resumes. Like, and you go in and interview them, and you can just see their last like couple of roles. They like never talked to a customer. They weren't out of the office. They weren't like. So you can see usually pretty fast the people who like to thrive on the front lines and be in the thick of it, and the people who kind of like to work their way into a position where they can be at a distance. And then the last one is win together. So we look for people that like to win as a team, support each other. We talk about being people first, coworkers second. So
like that.
Got to appreciate balance and really respecting and caring for the people around them. So that's the kind of company we want to build.
Yeah.
So those values are things we interview for and look for internships and full time.
That's honestly amazing. I know a lot of companies nowadays, a lot of jobs are losing their workers because they don't treat them like people. They just treat them like an object, and that's pretty sad. So when it comes to you guys, your 5 reasons, I feel like that's pretty top tier.
And adaptability as well. So you guys are always adapting and rolling with the punches. A question that I wanted to ask that we're actually talking in my diversity and inclusion class here. I looked at your guys' website prior to this, and I saw you guys do have a section on diversity and inclusion. Can you talk about how you guys like implement that into the workplace when it comes to hiring new workers, when it comes to promoting your products, like the type of people you use, just any and all just about diversity and inclusion and within Hudl? If you can talk about that.
So it's a big focus of ours for a lot of reasons. I mean, one is like our customer base that we serve is super diverse, and I love that about athletics and sports. That's the great part. Like, if you look out on most sports teams and just most sports in general, not all, but a lot of them, like it's just naturally a diverse base that we're serving. So we're leaning into that in a lot of ways. We've been talking about inclusive Hudl a lot, which I really like. About diversity is important, but it's kind of like you got to start with inclusion, because whatever you try to do to increase diversity is not going to work if you're not an inclusive environment where people land there and feel like they really belong.
Yeah.
So we've been putting a really big emphasis on making sure that is the way Hudl feels for anyone who's joining, regardless of what group they identify with or where they're coming from. And we have ERGs, so employee resource groups. That's been really big. So we have Black Hudl, Pride at Hudl, Women at Hudl. We have a ERG around mental health for those that want to have extra support there, and make sure we have a group that's helping make sure Hudl's a great place to work, even if you're working through mental challenges or your mind just works in a different way than other people's.
Right.
So a number of different ERGs that have really been great resources, and they're great sounding boards for us as leaders at Hudl, because we can go to those groups and the leaders in those groups and talk about, like, how are we doing? Like, or when we mess up, like, how can we get better? Like, clearly we missed the mark here. So that's been really good. Diverse hiring, especially at the top of our hiring funnels, has been a big emphasis for us too. So making sure every role that we're going after, we're putting a real emphasis on making sure that the top of that funnel, the candidates we're bringing in are diverse. We're going to pick the best person, for the job, always, but we can do a better and better job of making sure we're going out and sourcing a diverse group of people when we're looking at that role. So making sure we're posting on job boards that reach different groups, underrepresented groups at Hudl that we don't naturally reach if we're just looking for referrals from our own team, that kind of stuff. So I could go on for a while, but those are some things. Like the way we hire, most important is making sure we have a really inclusive environment at Hudl, making sure we're giving voices to groups that are underrepresented groups at Hudl that may not have as much of a natural voice at every single table, elevating that.
So we're my bad.
Yeah.
We're on a lot of talk about the employees, and you guys is like, when it comes to you guys figuring out what's best for your workers, what moves to make for you guys as a company as a whole. So, but when it comes to you working with other CEOs, like having to work with partners, how exactly does that work when it comes to making decisions? If there's anything that comes up that you guys just need to get on the same page about, like what's that process look like?
Like with the other leaders at Hudl?
The other leaders, yes sir.
I'm trying to think of some of the big concepts. Like I really like this concept. It comes from Amazon, but we talk about it at Hudl quite a bit too. Disagree and commit. It's one of their leadership principles at Amazon.
Disagree and commit.
Disagree and commit. So it's like, if you're really in any team, but especially in leadership teams, like somebody's accountable for making that call. So I think like Brian Kaiser, our CTO, my co-founder, like he's accountable for making the calls on our engineering, kind of our architecture of our systems, the technical direction we go, the engineering team we're building, that whole area. And at times we'll have something we might disagree on, but that's his call. And so I'll share my thoughts. Like, I actually think this might be the better route. He'll say, nope, like I think this is the better route and here's why. And I'll disagree and commit, like, this is your call, man. Like, I got your back. And then once that call is made, you got to back it up. Like, that's the key is, as a leadership team, you can't have fractures show through to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So whoever's accountable for that call, you push back, you can challenge them. When they make that call, you disagree with it, that's okay, but you commit, you come out of that room committed to it. And then we try to make sure we have a good check-in. So most calls, this is another Jeff Bezos comment. Jeff Bezos is a pretty brilliant dude, so there's a lot of stuff we borrow from him on leadership, but he talks about one-way doors and two-way doors. Like, most of your decisions in life and definitely in business are two-way doors, but people treat them like one-way doors. There's usually like very few one-way door decisions. So we talk about that at Hudl a lot. Like, you'll get freaked out in a room, things will get kind of heated up a little bit, and then you'll take a step back and be like, crew, this is a two-way door decision. Like, we can make the call, and 3 months from now, if this isn't working, we can reverse it and try something else, and everyone kind of calms down a little bit.
So it's like,
okay, because we thought like today we were like making the call forever and ever. There's a handful of calls you make that are pretty tough to unravel, and you need to put the time. Those are the one-way doors. You got to put some extra time in. Disagree and commit, all those concepts still apply, but so that helps too, is reminding yourself that 90% of the calls you're making are two-way doors, and you can switch direction later. But we try to have clear accountability. We try to really trust each other. Like, if that's your area you're in charge of, like that's your area, and we'll still hold each other accountable. I can still challenge you, but you're going to make the call. We try to really guide each other by outcomes. So that's the other thing that can really throw you off is we talk about outcomes versus output. So if you get overly caught up in how someone's working and how they're going about it, like, that's really their call. Like, you really want to let the person who's owning it decide how. What you want to debate and maybe push on is the outcome they're responsible for in the end. So I'm trying to think, like, if we're launching a new product into club soccer in the U.S., like, our outcome really is we want X number of clubs using Hudl and X number of club athletes, getting recruited. That's really what I want to agree on and be driving towards and set goals around that outcome. And then I want to let the team like figure out what happens underneath to get there, and not be jamming myself in saying, oh no, we need this feature or not that feature. It's just like, it should be saying, Wirtz, if I'm telling you I've got that outcome, give me some room. Like, we'll check in along the way, but give me some room to like navigate
figure it
to
out.
that. So So yeah, disagree and commit, kind of one-way door, two-way door, making sure you're checking yourself on that, managing and leading towards like outcomes, and don't get caught up in micromanaging each other's output or approach. Those are all
like
important.
that.
After going through what you talked about for the last 35 minutes, I mean, it makes sense to why you guys are at the point you guys are at today, because you've been able to adapt. Like you said, two-way doors. I mean, it seems like you had a really good mindset throughout these last, in 2007 is when you guys started, right? 2006?
6, yeah.
2006. So one thing I want to talk to you about was just, how many lives you actually changed at Hudl. And before I get into this fact real quick, do you have a favorite Hudl like highlight mixtape from any NFL athlete or any athlete in general? Do you have a favorite so far?
Ooh, man,
That's a great question.
favorite Hudl.
There's been some pretty famous ones. I mean, some like Derrick Henry, Odell Beckham, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I think so. The story I get really drawn to, a lot of us Hudlies are, there's this athlete named Fotu Liatu.
Oh my dude, it's written right here. I was just about to talk about him. Literally,
Okay.
Fotu Leonardo.
Yeah, he's a stud. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But he had just this incredible Hudl highlight tape of him on special teams, just
Dude, he was
lighting
insane.
people up.
Scoring.
Yeah, it was
We
over 1
watched
million
that.
views
Yeah.
on Hudl, dude.
We
Oh
checked
my
that
God.
out.
Yeah, it just blew up. And so the coolest part about that, the highlight tape itself is pretty amazing, but the coolest part about the story was he was pretty much kind of getting not noticed. Hadn't gotten calls, maybe from some smaller schools, but then got his highlight tape out on Hudl, it kind of blew up, and then he started getting calls, and eventually got a call from Oregon.
Yeah,
That was his dream. Yeah, that was his dream school to go to, and he got to go play there, and he did the work, and there's a fair chance he would have gotten noticed by Oregon at some point anyway, but
Yeah.
the fact that Hudl got to be a part of that journey and help him get exposed, I mean, that just like gets back to the core of like, well, we're doing what we're doing.
Gives me
But that
goosebumps.
story is cool for so many angles, because like the tape itself was awesome. All
Right.
us at Hudl were loving watching it, and then we were watching the views just explode one day and tick up, and then hearing he got the call, and then seeing he went to Oregon,
Yeah.
following his career. So that story kind of sums up what we're about.
Dude, that's amazing, man. Like I said,
Yeah, I love that it's on the sheet.
Dude,
Yeah.
literally, like I'm watching his highlights. I'm going through like Derrick Henry. I think he had like 300,000. Odell like 20,000, and then Fotu, man, he had like 1.5 million.
Yeah,
like
it's
nobody
wild.
even comes close to him on Hudl, and it's just
Something about it really resonated. I mean, the
Dude.
the hits are
yes.
pretty legit, but also I think, it's just kind of this unknown. I mean, people love finding those highlight
Yeah.
tapes of like, there's this guy I haven't even heard about. He's not.
And then he comes
Yeah,
out a beast.
I don't see him
Underdog.
on. How many stars does he have? None. He's not even on the list yet.
I know,
Yeah.
dude.
It's pretty
I mean,
cool.
Hudl's been a big part of my life ever since 2017 when I was a freshman in high school. I had no idea what it was until I came up to high school, and the football coach showed me what it was. Like, here's how you make your highlight mixtape. And ever since that, I've just been obsessed with Hudl. And even on my visit here, I was like, the CEO of Hudl, the corporation's here? Like, what? Like, I was so surprised, and it's just so cool to be a part of that you went to the College of Business as well. A question that I had to you. So I have a friend back home. His name is Brian Stanton. He's a beast at football. He's been playing a varsity running back since his sophomore year of high school, and he's really struggling to get offers. What do you think he can be doing with his Hudl highlight mixtape to try and get himself up there and just get the recognition that he's been working hard to get?
Man, that's a good question. I won't be there's better experts than me probably giving him the tips. Like, keeping the highlight tape really tight is one thing. So I know like everyone has a lot of great plays, but being really judicious, especially about your first like 10 clips, just like you get this kind of false impression sometimes that these recruiters are watching, when they watch a highlight tape, they're going to sit and watch your whole 4-minute long, it's like not going to happen. So
Right.
just really making sure, and I haven't seen his, but making sure that first 5 seconds just like grabs you. Don't worry about, it's not about the effects or anything else that you're adding in. It's like, get right to the point. So
Right.
grab at the beginning. I think, trying to work the network is another thing. Like, how could he, work through his network, either via his coach and his coach's network, and kind of working every angle to try to get a warmer introduction, route into those schools that he wants to get into. I know you're like, it's always surprising to me, even when we're trying to route our way into like hire somebody, like, this amazingly talented person's over here at this other company. It's amazing how like you can find your way kind of over to that person if you just really work, your degrees, extra degrees of separation. So that'd be another one.
Is what my mom told me that 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is. It's true.
It is.
Figuring out how he can tell his story in a unique way is cool too. So anything he can kind of bring in and highlight that kind of just pops off the page and stands out about him, whether it becomes like a title, slide in that highlight. That's a differentiator, whether it's a stat that kind of sets him apart or something he's doing academically, or there's a few of the ideas. Honestly, you guys will know even better than me, having lived it out yourselves. Like, what are some of the things that can help you get noticed? Is he looking to go D1? Is that what he's hoping? Okay.
Yeah, that was his thing. So he's been a great athlete, but this year it's just been hard to get like the exposure, like getting into all these different schools. And he's a great athlete. He's D1 talent for sure. It's just like he hasn't got that offer yet or gotten noticed. So we have similar stories. I mean, I didn't get a track offer till I think March, and the recruiting process is done in like I think most of the time it's like September, October. So I was nervous, man. I was super nervous about getting a scholarship, and then luckily I had a really good race, and they just blew up out of nowhere. So
yeah, that's nice. I walked on, so that's awesome too. I'd say like for him, like I mean for anyone at least, like you said, like reaching out to your coach, trying to get the layers, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Like if you want to reach out to a coach, you just send them a video.
Do it. That's a great call. That's a great call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be creative with it. Yeah.
Put yourself out there a little bit.
That's a really good call.
Honestly, also
competitors.
Yes. You guys are amazing at what you do. We were doing some research and we found out that you guys have a really good knack for finding competitors and acquiring competitors as a part of Hudl. So as far as that goes, I mean, we had some examples. Let's see. Digital sports video. Apex Sports.
That was our second.
So as far as that goes, like, what is the process like as far as finding the people that show some type of businesses that you like, and figuring out how to get them to become a part of Hudl.
Acquisitions have been a big part of how we've grown. It's been like maybe 60-70% organic, like growing Hudl, and then 30-40% bringing on amazing acquisitions that have helped jumpstart a market. We think about like acquisitions, there's like a few different dimensions that they can help us on. Like DSV and Apex are good examples of, sometimes it's just acquiring a customer base that we know would be a great fit for Hudl, and they're on another product, and we could acquire that company and shift them over to the Hudl platform and help push our customers up in in another area of the business where it's gonna another company's gone out and acquired that customer base already effectively. We want to bring them in. So DSV and Apex, like our system had all the features theirs had, but it was already cloud based and had a lot of other things going on, and so we were able to bring those customers in. For some acquisitions, it's about technology and the technology team behind them. So we acquired a company called Incatech in just outside Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and that was about bringing on like the expertise to build these camera systems. So they were awesome at building intelligent camera systems that could follow sports. So in that case, we got a great team and great technology, and then built off of that. They didn't really have a lot of customers. And in some cases, acquisitions help get us into a new geography. So that's another big part. So like we acquired a company called Sports Tech based in Sydney, Australia, but they had an amazing base of customers in Europe, in Australia, in countries in Asia. So it gave us this jump start in professional sport in all these geographic pockets that it would have taken us a long time to build up the expertise on how to go win in France. But they already had a bunch of amazing teams and a sales team already there in France.
So why not just help each other? Okay.
For sure. Nice. So like, talent, bringing on talent. Sometimes it's about bringing on customers. Sometimes it's about bringing on technology. Sometimes it's about helping us push into a geography that we know it'll take a while for us to learn, so that can jumpstart that. Sometimes it's a combination, but those are the main things.
That's what we were checking out. We I actually enjoyed looking that up, like doing the research about that as far as the technology that you acquired from that. So there was one that really caught my attention. I think it's like let me see if I got it up here. Blue frame. Yeah, I love that. I don't know why, but it seems so futuristic to me. So as far as that goes, like, do you guys have a lot of systems that use that, or a lot of schools, or is that like kind of new in this?
It's growing. It's new. Yeah, it's new, but it's growing. Like Blue Frame. So what Blue Frame is like a streaming platform that we can kind of layer in with Hudl.
Yeah.
So we've got the camera systems, we've got the video technology to break it down for analysis for the team and for recruiting and highlights. And then if our teams wanted to stream to fans, they had to use YouTube in the past. Now that we acquired Blueframe, we're now launching that as Hudl TV, and it's giving teams a streaming platform they can stream to. So they can still stream to YouTube if they want, but if they would rather, they can stream to Hudl TV, and then it allows them to charge like pay-per-view per game or charge a subscription to fans and make money off of their content, which has been awesome. Blueframe did an amazing job in kind of the small college market, so they had a ton of conferences signed on.
Yeah.
And then they only had a handful of high schools, but the technology was right. They just hadn't pushed into the high school space yet. And so it was a great compliment. We're really strong in the high school space and already had those customers. So now we're able to go to market and go to a high school and say, hey, you're using us for Hudl, you love Hudl, you already have our cameras up. Now all you have to do is flip this switch on Hudl TV Blueframe, and now you have a paid streaming platform that's your video just flows out to.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Our goal is really to make Hudl pay for itself. So if we can do this right, this Hudl bill that the school is paying ends up flipping to being, net neutral eventually, like it pays for itself, and then eventually a revenue generator where you're not buying Hudl really anymore. You got Hudl as a platform, it pays for itself, and it throws off $10,000, $20,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Into your program.
It's crazy.
And then the schools can run their own ads on those streams too. So we share in the revenue for any fan that pays for a game or pays for a subscription, and then the school can go, if they've got a local car dealership or whatever it might be, they can get those ads running on their streams and take, the school gets to reap all those benefits.
Yeah, see, that's amazing. Okay, that's the next
Paid ads is a long way. You guys have a really big partnership with Puma, actually. I remember you were in the class, and then the first thing you said in our video is like, got to get that Puma ad money. So can you talk about how you acquired them as a good and paid sponsor for you guys?
We have an amazing brand ad sales team that are out there talking to all the big agencies and the big brands that we know like fit really well with sport. Brands that we know want to reach young athletes, to get them in their gear early so they can become a Puma athlete. And we know that lasts for your whole life if that's what you connect with early on. So we just had an awesome, Under Armour was our launch sponsor for Hudl TV. So they had, when Hudl TV as a site went out, like it was Under Armour kind of all around. We've done some great work with Nike too. So it's really out there talking to those agencies, but it's also great when we can talk directly to the brand, get connected to the people there that are trying to get in at the grassroots level. And there's really no platform like Hudl. Like if they want to reach athletes and know they're hitting athletes, they can try to do that on Instagram and other platforms, TikTok, but like Hudl's the only place where we can say, like, we know you're hitting athletes, you're hitting varsity athletes, you're hitting team captains, and you're hitting the people that are going to be influencers at the school because they're using Hudl.
Right. That's true.
So yeah, that's been the pitch to them. But it's been really cool when they've come on board. I think there's so much more we're going to be able to do with those brands over time too, because we can do some really cool activations in the school. So I've always wanted to do something with a Puma or an Adidas or Nike. If for anybody who's listening or watching from those companies, reach out. Where we like engage in some way where if an athlete's highlight blows up, or I don't know what the criteria would be. Maybe they break a record at their school. We come up with some trigger that's real and meaningful to the athlete, but actually having like gear show up at the school as a reward, pretty sweet. Like wrapped up in some sweet unique box that shows up at the school that the athlete's getting, and everyone's gathering around.
That will make their life.
But if we could do some kind of activation like that, where like maybe every varsity captain is eligible for this, and something happens during the season that qualifies them, and then we're sending out 1,000 pairs of Puma gear or Adidas gear or something in the school. So we love doing digital stuff, but I think there's some other like hybrid stuff between digital and physical world that we could do and activate in some really cool ways.
That would completely make their life.
That'll go a long way. If I was a high school athlete and a box like that showed up, I'd be like set for life.
No, I would look. I got Puma on right now. They commented on one of my pictures one time, so I was like, "Oh my god,
that's
Puma!"
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That stuff. Yeah, it's super meaningful. Like, relatively small gestures, but direct from a brand at the right time.
Yeah, it's just right.
It's got to be in the right way at the right time.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we kind of specialize in being able to find the moments that matter for the athlete, and then be able to connect the brand in at that time.
Yeah. So I mean, speaking about some of the things you have like that you aspire to have for Hudl going on, what are your long-term goals for Hudl?
Yeah, I mean, long-term, like in the high school, college market, we really want to get every single school on an athletic department-wide package with us. So, and we're getting there. Like we've got, coming up on close to half of high schools that are using us for their whole athletic department, but we still have plenty more out there that are using us for 1 or 2 sports, or maybe 3. So for us to impact every athlete in that market, we really need to be athletic department wide, and not just used for football, basketball, but also for hockey, for lacrosse, volleyball, baseball, softball. So that's a big part of the mission. Pushing down into really serving every single competitive club. Eventually, every club, but when you get into the really recreational clubs or really young athletes that are just kind of just getting introduced to sport, that's not really our sweet spot. But every club where athletes are kind of paying attention to getting recruited, we want to be in there helping them capture video. And right now we have plenty of market out ahead of us to go serve there. So club soccer, club volleyball, club hockey, club lacrosse, all those clubs. So that's a big part of it. And then, like I was mentioning earlier, with Hudl TV, a big part of our mission is making Hudl pay for itself. So how do we make sure every school that's using Hudl is getting all the value out of their media content to engage fans, to drive revenue back to the school, to sell tickets. We talk about how we've got signs at Hudl that just have cookie dough with a circle on the line through it, no more cookie dough, no more wrapping paper. I don't know if you guys had to do those fundraisers along the way where we had to go sell cookie dough.
Stuff.
It's nobody likes it. And nobody really wants to buy the cookie dough.
They don't. They're just trying to be nice.
It's kind of bad all around. So we're trying to pitch to ADs and schools and clubs on get rid of the cookie dough and wrapping paper. Let's help you use your own content to drive fundraising and revenue back into the program. Way more than you would make off cookie dough in the first place. Right. And nobody's dealing with these, junk that nobody wants to deal with. It's also not a good way to level the playing field. We also know when schools do those cookie dough fundraisers, the well-off kids, parents just buy all the cookie dough and give it away to the family or throw it in the freezer. And the ones that aren't as well-off are literally grinding it out, going door to door when they should be training and doing school and other stuff. Although maybe it's good sales practice. I did say earlier it's good to sell. So the reps, those reps aren't bad, but so it's not even. It's just for in a lot of ways it's not a healthy way. So that's a big part of the vision for Hudl. Thinking about the future is having athletic departments and programs and athletes doing what they really care about, what they're best at, and just really cutting out some of this friction and some of this junk and some of the stuff that gets in the way of being a great student athlete, being a great AD.
Yeah. So, man, a lot about the athlete lifestyle, the entrepreneur lifestyle, the business lifestyle, CEO lifestyle. But outside of all of that work, sweat, grind, what does your chill time look like, your downtime, your relaxation, what is that? Who is John Wirtz? Back to it.
I don't get as much true chill downtime now. So I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home, 2 girls. So I'm living the girl dad life. It's awesome. It's fantastic. We just put them down for bed tonight, just reading books and hanging out, singing to them. It's super fun.
You be singing?
Only to them. Yeah.
Go ahead and.
A little Dock of the Bay. Dock of the Bay is a favorite song. So that's a lot of my time is just like spending time with the girls. I love listening to podcasts. So a lot of times if I have downtime, I'm just like, I might be doing out in the yard or doing something. I just have one AirPod in and I'm just listening to How I Built This. Is like entrepreneurial podcasts.
How I Built This.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. I was literally listening to it as I pulled into the parking lot. He's interviewing the guy who started Chobani Yogurt. It's fantastic.
Check one out.
Yeah, so a lot of podcasts, a lot of books. I love being on the lake, so being out on a boat, wakeboarding is my happiest place. So if I can, just be out there floating on the water, chilling, wakeboarding, and then my wife and I love traveling. So anytime. It's trickier with the girls. As the girls get older, it'll be super fun getting to travel more as a family. But anytime we get to go explore a new city, just walk. I love just with her, just walking a new city. That's super fun.
That does sound surreal. Sounds peaceful. What's your favorite place you've been?
We did the south of Spain. That was incredible. So Granada and Cordoba and Sevilla and it's this really cool smash up of you're right by Africa, and so it's African influence, Mediterranean heavy Catholic influence because you're in Spain. It just feels like this really crazy kind of cool melting pot. Their lifestyle is great there. Siestas for real. Everything truly is closed. It kind of blows your mind as an American. With 24/7 Walmarts everywhere, and you go there and when siesta hits, You better chill because no place is open. Everyone's taking a nap. Like, relax. It's awesome.
That.
Yeah, the lifestyle's great. And then Vietnam was another place we like absolutely loved. That was an incredible country.
Okay.
Just like great people, beautiful, food's incredible. So yeah, I would highly recommend hitting those spots.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
The
Hopefully.
podcast. Yeah, financially
It's gonna
free.
get us there.
Podcast.
Yeah, look for those cheap flights. Once you land there, you can always kind of be scrappy and make it work. You just gotta like try to find that flight.
That's true.
Find that flight deal.
That's true.
Is there anything that, so you're at this great point now in life, is there anything that you would want to go back and change or maybe even just re-experience again throughout this whole entire process?
Yeah, oh man, tons I'd love to re-experience again. There's not a lot I'd want to change because I feel like you all said, like I love that, like the journey is what it's about. So
Yeah.
Always.
if you're going back and changing things to try to avoid any part of the journey, it kind of screws it all up. Like,
True.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of what. There's definitely moments along the way where I would have like stopped and like taken it in a little bit more. That's
Right.
a big. We try to do that as best we can at Hudl, but when you're heads down grinding, it's like
It's tough.
tough to kind of stop and take it in. When we do big retreats where we bring the company in, that's definitely a point where I like forces me to kind of step back and be like, whoa, this is incredible. I get to see the team together and see them like just growing with each other and having so much fun. So yeah, those are moments I would definitely love to go back and relive, or those like, we used to go to Vegas every year as a company for a retreat. Back when we were just 4 or 5 people, and then we just kind of did it every year as we grew until it did get kind of unsustainable. So then we switched it to not be every year, but we still get the whole team together every 3 or 4 years globally.
Nice.
Those are all moments that are like I would go back and. The year we launched our basketball products, we rented out. I think it was at the Palms. They have a basketball suite at the Palms, and so we rented that out to celebrate with the team, just because like we had an amazing year. They all worked their butts off, so we're like, let's have an awesome party. And it's got a full court basketball court in the suite.
No way.
And so we're launching our basketball product, like our new basketball product there. So I remember we got everybody these cool Hudl basketball jerseys. And got to celebrate the team that had built that product. So they all walked out on the court. We introduced them as like starting lineup style, and then that was like moments like that were really cool, where we get to like celebrate the team, be in a cool environment, everyone having fun. But yeah, not a lot I would change. Like, yeah, it's tough, but we've been like super blessed. So
Yeah.
I'm also in a position where we have a great team. We've been on a great ride. There's been tons of mistakes along the way, but generally it's been, not a lot I would change. I wouldn't want to throw it off kilter, throw it off track.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. I have actually a final question for you, going along the lines of financial literacy. So, I mean, when you're in charge of a multi-million-dollar company like you are, has finances always been something that you've always been on top of, or was it something that you really had to learn along the way of this process of Hudl?
A ton I've learned along the way. I will say, like, if you get the chance, if you're thinking about starting your own business or even just being in business, like, taking enough accounting and enough finance classes to build up that literacy is super valuable. So I've gotten a ton of value out of my college of business classes and accounting and finance. I didn't take a lot of accounting, so I took, the base. I was a business administration major, so I took which is great. Like, that's your language. I remember, I think it's Warren Buffett has some really great quotes around, like, it's just the language of business. If you can't speak that language, if you can't read a financial statement, if you can't read a P&L and a balance sheet and understand what's going on, like, you can't speak the language of business, that's going to be a problem.
Right.
So I do think that it's really important to get that baseline. But then so much you learn deeper than that when you're digging into it yourself and you're trying to really figure out the business you were trying to build. Writing a business plan is a great education too, and like putting it in practice, just trying to write a business plan and getting. I'm actually a big fan. I can geek out on a spreadsheet, like pulling a spreadsheet out and trying to like play out like, here's where I think revenue will go and here's what my costs will be, and like trying to create some formulas and see what the relationship might be and see how it plays out to the bottom line is kind of fun. Like, it's a form of computer programming almost, where you just kind of like working this model together to see if the business works. So you can get to the point where you can, maybe it's not like your idea of a super fun Saturday is like pulling out a spreadsheet. I get that, but if you can get it to the point where you're not afraid of it, that's probably like the bar you want to be at. Like, you shouldn't be afraid of it. I'm a big fan too of like reading, like an S1 can be pretty good too. So like that's the the documented company files before they go public. So if you hear about a company going public that is a company you're interested in, like say you're big into the music space and you hear Spotify's going public, or you're a big Uber fan and you hear Uber's going public, like find a company you're interested in and like grab their S1. Those are like super useful documents to level up your business understanding. They've got the financial models in them, but it's also storytelling, and it also talks about the company's strategy. And so that's one of the best ways to get financially literate, is like actually read some of those documents, like a S1 or like the annual financial statements that companies are putting out. But pick a company you're really interested in, and it'll makes it more interesting to read the stuff.
I like those.
We're gonna have to pull up your S1 after this.
Yeah. Someday.
Yeah, for real. Okay. Are you good with the questions?
Yeah, John, is there anything that you can notice off our business planning? We're only 9 months, and I think we started back in March. Is there any advice that you would have for us going forward after having this amazing conversation with you?
Man, advice for you all: just keep doing what you're doing. Like you're doing it. I love like the question you asked in class was like fearless.
Oh,
it was
man.
awesome when I was speaking.
I was nervous, dude. I was nervous.
Dude, I couldn't tell. I was speaking in class and having you ask me to like review your highlight tape. I love that it was pulled up. Like that was awesome. Like my message to the class was like, get scrappy. Like don't be afraid. And you just like
went straight
did
to
it.
it.
Like,
Yeah,
right
I had a
across.
vision, man. That video got like 300,000 on my TikTok too. It was insane.
That's cool.
It blew up.
That's cool. Well, I love that. So I mean, you guys are living it out. How are you? Oh, I have about 100 questions I could like shoot back.
We could most definitely do that.
At you all.
Oh, man.
I'd love to hear like where you want to head with it, and like
So-
how you financed it so far, and yeah.
I have a great idea. I know you're a really busy guy. We should really do this over coffee or food.
Man,
I think that's a great idea.
I would love to do it. I would
You
love to if I could flip the mic
Uh-huh.
and just ask you all. It doesn't need to be on the record over coffee or food. Is
Yeah.
good, but like just hear like where you're going.
Yeah,
with
we
the
would-
business. What are your biggest challenges? I'm curious how if you've taken on any fundraising or you think you might down the road. What does it build? What does it build to? Is it a media empire?
We will love that.
I'll go ahead and start out. Our biggest struggle right now.
Wait. We got one. Do it on the podcast?
Yeah, why not?
Struggles. Let's go.
Our biggest. Listen,
Let's go. Let's get it. Let's get it.
It
It was super hard. It was super hard to get you here, so we got to
Talks.
utilize every second we
That's
have.
facts.
Your
You're
audience
right.
will appreciate, I'm sure, hearing like, the real talk from you.
You're
Listen,
right.
the real
Let's get
talk.
to
So for us in the merchandise, so our YouTube is not profitable yet. You need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours.
My laptop's on 1%.
1%. It's okay. It's okay. We can use the phone audio for this. It'll hear it.
All right, bet.
Okay, we'll be fine.
Okay.
As I was saying though, YouTube monetization, we're still working towards that. We have about, I think, 150 subscribers and 800 watch hours. We're working with that. Our merchandise, we really want our merchandise to hit it off. We started about 2.5-3 months ago, and our biggest struggle so far is getting people that are not friends and family to purchase the merchandise.
Conversion.
We've been trying to run Facebook ads. We've been trying to promote on social media, on TikTok, and so far we just have really no luck. We're throwing a lot of darts into like a dark room, like we don't know what's hitting. So that is our biggest struggle right now, trying to find ways to make this profitable, make this engaging for our audience and our fans. So if you have any advice for that, it'll be great.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll try. It's definitely not my strong suit, like that area, but I'll try to, if I come across tools that I'm seeing out there, or I'll make sure to share y'all's way. Like, so you trying to get to, so if you get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, that will unlock monetization.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Have you guys looked at like other platforms like Patreon and like some other platforms like that? I don't know if you've seen them, where people can just like more direct support you.
I have not. No, what is
I wonder if
Patreon?
there's
Is Patreon where
Patreon's like a platform where people can like direct support an artist or business straight up. But I'm not sure if I've never used it, but I know some of the podcasts that I listen to, like that's where they'll release like special episodes, or they'll release stuff early, or you can kind of become like a higher level fan,
like exclusive to that brand.
Yeah, so that's like one way where you don't have to kind of wait for or be at the mercy of the YouTube kind of engine.
Yeah.
Or you can do both.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where my mind goes, to keep my eyes peeled for like other platforms where we can get some monetization flowing earlier with less scale, and then still kick YouTube in later. But I love what you're all doing. I'm trying to think of, right now it's the podcast is the media that you all are putting out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, I wonder if like, is there any like behind the scenes stuff around athletics that y'all are
Yes.
able to do too that goes beyond like podcast format to more of like a, maybe y'all are doing this already, like where you go on and doing videos kind of behind the scenes of what it's like to be.
Exactly. We both have personal YouTube channels, so that we
Okay.
post a lot of day in lives in there.
Yeah. Why not on
Time
Time
stocks.
Well,
That's a great idea.
So that's one of my takeaways at Hudl is it's really hard to build one brand. For a while we had Agile Sports Technologies and then Hudl. Agile Sports was like the company and then Hudl was the product. This isn't quite the same as you all, but general gist was we realized like trying to build two brands, like a company brand and then the product brand underneath, like it was hard enough to build one. So we just brought it together, like this Hudl, and we just kind of wrapped everything into Hudl. Like, you know, Hudl was the gear, Hudl was the product, Hudl is when we're not talking, it was all Hudl.
Right.
So I wonder if there's a way for you all to take like all the energy you're putting into creating great content and see if you can create a
Focus
brand,
on one.
like create a brand where it can all go there. Like it has to be connected, I get. So
Yeah.
sometimes you need separate channels because it's different audiences.
Yeah.
But I would caution you from like trying to build 3 audiences at once.
It's difficult.
Right.
It's hard to build one. So how can you all just
Yeah.
focus on building one big audience?
That's true. That's it.
That's
That's
one thought.
that's gonna be something that
You got to be picking on this one.
Yeah, most definitely. Because when it comes to us, it kind of reminds me of the hat too. It's yin and yang with our personalities. We literally like in the areas I lack, he helps, and vice versa. Same thing with our energies and our like lifestyle. So I mean, and that helps the podcast by far. But it also, there are moments where confront and what did you say?
Disagree and commit.
Disagree and commit.
Yeah.
Yes, that happens a lot, and it's good. But yeah, I guess it's just something we would have to work on. But that's actually a great idea. Yeah.
It may not work for all your channels, but that just be a general piece of advice. It's like it's really hard to build one channel, one following, one brand. Early on, you'd want to really try to avoid building multiple.
Yeah.
If you can, just so your energy can all be
In one place.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Got you.
One thing I'm wondering too is if are you able to like build if like the gear is something you all want to move. Like I really like Timeless, just like almost just straight up. Like yeah, when I saw the sleeve, I love Timeless. Like I wonder if like I love Timeless Talks because I know what you're doing with the podcast, but is there a way to like broaden the brand out so that even if they didn't know that you're doing like talks to the podcast or like that they could still be into like Timeless, or I don't know if that would be the right one, but
Right.
you almost make it more of a brand that's about more than the talks. Like
Yeah.
you guys could be about, I like that you're about getting athletes noticed, you're about
recognition.
but I don't know, just trying to position it for in a way where like the podcast is part of it, but it's more of like a vibe, like, and
Got you. Yeah.
that people are wanting to be on board with and a part of.
Right. Kind of making that pivot like how you guys did.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about like
professionals to high schoolers. Like,
Yeah.
how can we pivot out just from podcast fans, like sports fans? Like, how do we get it like everybody on board?
Because
You might
that's
not
pretty
literally
much
be
what
talking.
we do.
Right.
Yeah, that's literally what we do when it comes to everything.
Mhm.
It's just, we always say, we run a podcast instead of saying like everything that we do, because we do a lot and we're trying to do a lot. Like, for example, there's like a verification process when it comes to Instagram and everything. So you basically can't get verified unless you have articles about you, or like you're on the news or something like that. So for me, for example, I have like 43,000 on Instagram, 150 on TikTok. I can't get verified because I have no articles about me at all. So a process we're going through now is getting a format on our website. Yeah, so we get like literal articles written about people who had got on our podcast, who we spoke with, so they could get verification. So like we have a lot of things that we are diving into. So that is something
That's
that
cool.
will be
Yeah. That's great, and like it's a natural evolution. Like you start with a podcast, but then you start to see how it can become something bigger. But figuring out if you have a brand that isn't quite as tightly coupled to the podcast, unless you really believe the podcast will be like that will be the anchor, like the thing, then maybe that makes sense. But if the podcast becomes one part of a big broader like, so that people are asking you what you do, it's like, you know, we have a media. I don't know how you want to explain it. You also don't want it to sound fake, because it's not. It's real.
I mean, like what you said about having different sections, like what if you did something that was like timeless workouts, or like timeless day in the lives, or whatever, like having different branches, like timeless play or timeless gaming, like
timeless as the base and everything else as a branch type deal. Yeah.
That's what I would. Yeah, that's where I would go. And like the podcast might be called Timeless Talks.
Yeah.
But that's just the podcast.
Right.
But then it like, it allows people to get into the brand even if they're not necessarily podcast fans. Like they might be like, and a lot of people don't think about YouTube videos as a podcast.
Right.
Like they just think about it as a channel, like a media channel, like a YouTube channel. So I don't know, you might be over limiting yourself with like talks being as heavily connected into your overall brand.
Got you.
If we were to make multiple channels, do you think it'd be smart to keep the logo the same all throughout so that people recognize it?
I think having a brand, like a media brand that crosscuts, can make a lot of sense. Like, and this is like out of my, definitely not where I'm like got my heaviest expertise, but if you kind of study like, studying the media brands that you all really like, the people that are on YouTube that have built channels that you admire, like, and kind of looking at how do they walk that line between having a podcast that has a name for the podcast, but then a broader brand,
right? Like Mr. Beast or something.
So it's like he's not doing like Mr. Beast podcast as his main brand, but he's got
multiple channels. Mr. Beast donations, Mr. Beast plays, Mr. Beast.
Whatever. Timeless might be the way to like
go about it.
Anchor it, but I can see wearing I'm excited to wear the Timeless Talk City. I can also see wearing a Timeless hoodie. If you're like, Timeless, what's that? It's like, oh, it's this killer podcast and YouTube channel or whatever you got to check out.
Everything. Got you.
All right, it's just where my mind's going.
Yeah, no,
I'm
in kill mode now.
I'm for real.
I'm ready to attack.
We got a lot to talk about. For real.
I love what you're doing. Are there other athletes that you see that are kind of trying to do something similar? Are you guys the only ones, or there's some copycats out so trying to see where this reaction came from.
Yeah, right. So no,
Timeless Talks is the only YouTube channel, so we're ahead of that.
Yeah, we're ahead of that. We that's true. There are some people who did who I saw recently try to come out, try to go and do like podcasts and everything. I'm like, that's new. Where you get that? But there are a couple people, but nothing like YouTube channels, nothing like set in stone. So that's one thing about it. There's no consistency with anything.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I think having that's the other thing, just like kind of knowing what's your competitive advantage? Like why do you uniquely need to be there? In this sea of other YouTube stuff, how do you make sure you uniquely stand out? Like, this is what we're about. Nobody else is going to do this as well as we do this, which I think you all have it. Like, just making sure you keep calling that out. Like, it's about using athletics to tell the story of people that aren't getting their stories told, kind of thing, or however you convey that. But I think that's huge too. Just knowing that. I've just seen a lot of people, not you all, but others, like lose their way where they're just like they're doing a podcast and it's kind of like they'll bring anyone on the podcast and it kind of becomes broad and it's just like it never is gonna you're not gonna stand out. There's just too much other content out there. You're just gonna get swept away. So I like that you'll have this unique worldview as athletes in the same sport in the same place. You've got to say pieces. Where's your background? Where are you from?
My mom was in the military, so I traveled a lot.
Gotcha.
They're out in Georgia though, so it's like home.
Okay, but it's hard to call that a home.
Yeah. Wherever they go, it's my home.
That's wild. Yeah. I can't imagine that. It's got pros and cons, I guess, too. You have to know a lot of people, but it's not also challenging.
I'm Illinois.
Okay, Illinois.
Yeah.
But family from Puerto Rico?
My mom's from Puerto Rico, and then my dad also from Illinois.
Okay.
So half Puerto Rican, going down there to train in December. So my first time going, actually.
So,
really? Yeah, I'm trying to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
In the process too. My mom didn't teach me growing up, so I'm teaching myself that along the way. Man, I know. Trying to become bilingual, it's tough. But
was it about like she just didn't want to get in your way of like
Maybe I don't
getting
know. Something
integrated in the U.S. or something. It's like, I want our daughters to learn Spanish so badly, and we can't do that. It's like, oh, that's gold. But
yeah,
I get it. It's not viewed the same for people who
it's different for
immigrate
everybody.
every time. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, gotta get scrappy with it, man. Gotta learn it my own way,
Yeah.
get things done, and it's gonna pay off in the end when I learn Spanish and be fluent. 3 years, 5 years down the road.
At least you have lots of family to practice.
Yeah,
with that can
literally, lots
call
of
you
friends and
out.
family.
Yeah.
In Spanish, so we call me, hey, you practice your Spanish? I'm like, oh, you're right, I gotta get on that. Like,
Yeah.
it's great, man.
Nice, man.
So, damn.
Well, yeah, I love what y'all are doing. Let me know how I can keep helping. And yeah, if we can go grab coffee or lunch, maybe come up to Hudl.
We'll get some numbers.
Yeah, that'd be
Come up
amazing.
to Huddle for lunch sometime. Have you guys been to?
I've never
never been.
stepped foot inside, but
Oh,
looks
yeah,
amazing.
Okay, well, let's absolutely do that. Let's grab lunch at Huddle, and then I'll have, maybe I could have Kelly Mosier, like, who heads up our media and social media at Huddle, like, even come, join for lunch, and you guys can talk about, what you're doing. He can talk about what he's seeing.
Yeah.
Too.
Any advice, man? Anything that you
that'd
can
be
do to
awesome.
leverage us? We're gonna take these clips and run with them, man. So you're gonna see yourself all over social media. On a few viral clips. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let me know when it goes up.
yeah, I'm trying to get it done by the end of this week. Hopefully on Thanksgiving. That's my goal, to get this going on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Have a blow up there. So
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving.
Nice.
on Thursday.
Wow. You're gonna be great. All right, guys. We just had an amazing session with the CEO, John Wirtz from Hudl. Hey, we are about to tap out though. Your boy Chris Ramsey.
And Nico Schultz. And John, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. And don't forget to shop Timeless Talks at www.timelesstalks.org to get this amazing merch that Chris, John, and me are rocking. This is Timeless Talks on Hudl. Peace out.